yeah, and then paste. And that'll make, or Control-Shift copy and then paste. And that'll make a new layer which is, nothing but everything that was visible at the time. So then what you do is you'll select your area, and then you go liquefy, which is under filter. Um, and then you're going to be really careful. You're going to be sparing with the liquefy tool, because if you do it too much, it'll look like liquid. It's named aptly for in this case. So I start out with a bridge of the nose, and I widen it carefully. Don't worry about the eyes getting distorted. But remember if you've read the topic I wrote, remember that the line of the nose should always be tracking outward, unless you're doing a female, which we're not today. I don't think. um, it should always come outward like a Y. So we're going to keep on pulling it and pulling it and pulling it apart. And Richard has somewhat of a wide end to his nose. And I'm just going to take that in a little bit so that we don't get too crazy with the rest of the face. I even feel like right now I am going overboard with the liquefy tool. But I'm going to clean a lot of it up in a second when I break over to painting. So, this one is actually pretty easy and perhaps a poor example for showing how to convert a human nose into a Navi nose, because his nose is already sort of facing downward. But it'll do for now. The next part will perhaps be a little bit more interesting, because that'll show some other stuff. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit out of control here with the thing. The idea is you want to sort of get rid of a lot of this curvy arabesque lines and sort of make it more into that triangular shape that I discussed in the Avatar, Navi, Noses, and You topic. So I am more or less done here. I might bring it up a little bit, and that could look right, it could look bad, we'll see. It looks okay. It doesn't look great, but it's better, and we can fix up a lot of it with painting. So I'll make a new layer. I like to work in multiple layers so that you can sort of have your own timeline without having to worry about a huge history cache. And I'll go into my brushes and choose, well, I like this one a lot, which is a brush that allows me to tilt my pen tablet and, or my stylus, and depending on the direction it's tilted, it forms different angles, whatever. And it's also pressure sensitive, so I can shade it nicely. So I'm going to then, also making heavy use of reference, such as this. It's always a good idea to keep reference on hand, looking at it. To notice those little ridges of light and shadow. Always keep reference on there, and always look at reference. And if you don't have reference, you're screwed. Well, not really, but you probably should have reference. So while I'm looking at this reference, and that's going to be over in my other browser window, keep in mind also sort of how Richard's original skull sort of is shaped. He's got a thick brow, and it has sort of a U-shaped bump there, which we're going to try to reflect in the rest of it. So I'm going to select the darker one and just lightly paint out that type of situation so that we can have a sort of loop, a bump there. Yeah, just keep working at it like this, lightly. Switch my ref up. Okay. And actually, I'm thinking about it, and it feels like there's something wrong here. And I think it might be the eyebrows. Yeah, it's the eyebrows. Alright, so what I'm going to do then is duplicate, Control J, the old eye layer, and erase everything but the eyebrows. And the eyebrows themselves, I'm going to just make a little bit smaller. Don't ask me why, I'm just going to do that. Actually, I made a mistake. The eyebrows themselves should not be as tilted as the eyes. I broke a rule. In fact, you should tilt it back the other way if you can. Excellent. That's looking a lot better already. Yeah. See that difference? Phew, beautiful. Okay. So we'll go back to a new layer and continue what we were doing earlier, which is to shape the brow and keep in mind the light. Notice that there's a strong light coming from this direction. There's sort of a light coming from here, and that's going to be the warmer one, whereas the one on the right is cooler. That'll come into play a little bit later when we get into color. So we're going to continue this. And again, it couldn't hurt right now to just sit back and look at the nose topic and think about how the structure works. Navi, can easily sort of be broken down into a series of shapes like this, but you kind of put a crutch on yourself. So I mean, I'm going to just paint out that bladder form right there, and then bring this up. And male noses, in particular, I noticed the last time I watched Avatar, have a sort of convex shape to the side before they connect to the top of the skull. And they also, curl around and down like this. Okay. And Richard's got that bump that I'm going to try to work more into. Cool, so that makes things a little bit clearer, I think. Something to keep in mind. And in doing that, we're going to try to reflect that shape when we go back to paint it in. I mean, again, it helps to be sparing with your use of a lot of this stuff. You don't have to say everything to tell the truth, if that makes sense. In fact, one of my old art teachers, one of my favorite lines that he told me was, lie to tell the truth. And this was, for illustration, and he makes a pretty good point, in my opinion, about stuff, because, what could be anatomically right might not be right at all artistically, and might not translate, or it might not be otherwise correct, or at least it won't look right. So you have to kind of bullshit your way through a little bit. And the more I'm looking at, the more this crease here is a little bit rough. So I'm going to smooth that out. You can do this a variety of ways, but for now I'm just going to